Once Upon a Time in America is hailed today as one of the greatest gangster epics ever made. A sprawling, melancholic tale of childhood, betrayal, and the corrupting power of time. But when it premiered in American theaters in 1984, it bombed hard. Critics were confused, audiences were alienated, and that's because the version they saw was not the version you've seen, providing you've seen the film. The version they saw wasn't Leone's. It was butchered, cut, reshuffled, the emotional power of the film destroyed. In this video, we're going to look at how the US release of Once Upon a Time in America became one of the most notorious cases of studio interference in cinema history, and why the damage done to Sergio Leone's vision shouldn't be forgotten. There's several videos on this film on the channel, including what I think is the most disturbing scene in the film, and it's not what you're thinking. What happened to Joe Pesci in the movie, the opium dream theory, and whether Max really threw himself into the garbage truck. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos on gangster movies and crime cinema. Sergio Leone spent over a decade developing Once Upon a Time in America. He turned down offers, including directing The Godfather, to focus on this personal passion project. In fact, some say it was because of his regret regarding turning down The Godfather that he developed this movie. Leone's vision was to tell a deeply human story about a group of Jewish gangsters in New York across several decades, exploring themes of memory, regret, and the unreliability of the past. Starring Robert De Niro, James Woods, Joe Pesci, Jennifer Connelly, and Burt Young, and at 3 hours and 49 minutes long, the film is a true epic, a haunting, dreamlike undertaking that had a profound effect on me when I first watched it years ago in my youth. I put the movie right up there with the upper echelons of the crime genre, and I think it's one of the best films I've ever seen. When filming of the movie was complete, Leone had 8 to 10 hours worth of footage available. He trimmed it down to around 6 hours, planning on releasing the movie as 2 3-hour films. The producers refused to accommodate this, so Leone cut down the film to 3 hours and 49 minutes, which is considered to be the definitive version of the movie and likely the version you've seen. However, what many don't know is that Leone originally wanted the film to have a running time of 4 hours and 10 minutes to 4 hours and 30 minutes. Even the 3-hour 49-minute version excludes scenes that Leone considered essential, including further explanation of the mob and labor relationship, Old Man Noodles meeting an elderly Carol in 1968, and a significant chunk of Noodles' relationship with Eve. Regardless, it's the 3-hour 49-minute version that was screened in Cannes in 1984 to unanimous praise. Critics loved it, Leone was happy with it, but in the United States, with the film yet to be released, the studio had other ideas. Warner Brothers, along with the Ladd Company, feared that American audiences wouldn't sit through a 3-hour plus movie, especially one told out of order. So what did they do? They re-edited the film without Leone's consent. They cut out 90 minutes of footage. They reshuffled the entire structure into chronological order, completely removing the film's non-linear, memory-driven design. Scenes were shortened, entire subplots were removed, key character moments disappeared. And most egregiously, they destroyed the rhythm and soul of the movie. The US theatrical release clocked in at just 139 minutes. That's about 2 hours and 19 minutes, nearly 100 minutes shorter than Leone's Cannes cut. By forcing the story into chronological order, the studio robbed the film of its thematic weight and power. In Leone's version, we start in 1933, then jump to 1968, then fall back to the 1920s. This constant shifting mimics how Noodles, the main character, processes his trauma and guilt. He relives the past, haunted by what he did and what was done to him. The entire structure Leone designed to disorientate the viewer, to make them question the past, just as the characters do, was gone. The opium den bookends, which framed the story as possibly being a drug-induced dream, were chopped up or removed entirely in the US cut. The mystery of Max's betrayal, was it real? Was it a fantasy? In the US cut, it was simplified. There was no ambiguity left. One of the most poignant scenes The childhood of Noodles and Deborah and his obsession with her as he dances was slashed, undermining the film's central romance and eventual tragedy. Other major cuts were mainly from the childhood sequences, making the 1933 storyline the most prominent of the film. Unbelievably, Noodles meeting Deborah again after decades was cut out of the film, and the whole garbage truck opium den conclusion was changed so Secretary Bailey just shoots himself off screen. Critics noticed immediately. Roger Ebert gave the US cut just 2 stars, calling it incoherent and butchered. Gene Siskel said the chronological version made no sense emotionally. Critics who had seen both versions of the film condemned the US cut. Audiences stayed away. The film bombed at the box office, grossing only a fraction of its budget in the US. Leone was devastated, and numerous industry insiders, including actor James Coburn, who wasn't even in the film, have given interviews on Leone lamenting to them how the studio had butchered his picture.
When the film was first released in the U.S., they put out this, I call it a bastardized version of the film.
The first 2 versions, which were the initially released ones, which got very, very bad reviews, were not only shortened, but the time sequence was changed. The film is a series of flashbacks to 2 different periods, plus the present, which is 1968 in the film. And by going back and trying to arrange it chronologically, which is what happened when the film was released initially, it doesn't make any sense.
He was telling me about how they had ruined his Once Upon a Time in America. How they made him cut a lot out. They had to cut the time out, and really, and he was really sad about that. He said they spend a lot of time in making a nice movie, and they take all the essence out.
According to James Woods, a critic called the 2-hour 20-minute version the worst film of 1984, and that same critic, years later, would see the 3-hour 49-minute version and call it the best film of the decade. Treat Williams, who was also in the film, was aghast when he learned that the shorter version would be shown in American theatres, and he argued no one would understand the movie. Indeed, the film bombed hard and received no Oscar nominations, when one would initially envisage this as Leone's Hollywood magnum opus after so many years as an outsider making spaghetti westerns. Some even posit that the toll of this saga had a serious effect on Leone's health and contributed to his death just 5 years later. The release of the film was so poorly botched that the US distributor even failed to file the proper paperwork that would allow Ennio Morricone's score, considered one of his very best, to be nominated for an Academy Award. Can you believe that? And anyone who's heard the music for the film will know he would have surely gotten nominated, if not win the award outright, as the film's music is one of the best film scores ever produced. But in Europe, the longer cut had been met with acclaim. Over time, as film historians and fans discovered Leone's original vision on videocassette and DVD, the film's reputation slowly began to change. In 2012, Martin Scorsese and the Film Foundation helped restore Leone's longer version. Though a fully complete cut still hasn't been released, today we can watch a version that runs 4 hours and 11 minutes, closer to what Leone intended. For years, fans of Once Upon a Time in America were left with only fragments of Leone's vision. The 229-minute European cut was available, but Leone's preferred 269-minute version, which premiered in a rough format can, remained out of reach. But working with original camera negatives and lost footage stored in Italian archives, Martin Scorsese, the Film Foundation, and Leone's children assembled a new longer version of the film. This 2012 restoration, which premiered at Cannes that year, ran 251 minutes, 22 minutes longer than the well-known European cut, but shorter than its envisioned 269 minutes due to rights issues over the restored scenes. It reintroduced key scenes that had never been seen by most audiences, such as Senator Bailey discussing his impending doom with Treat Williams' character, and an entire subplot with Old Man Noodles being stalked at the cemetery by a car which eventually explodes, and him speaking with a character played by Louis Fletcher, who is completely absent from the 3-hour 49-minute version of the film. Maybe a rundown and analysis of the restored scenes is something we can do in a later video. Let me know if you want this down in the comment section below. Though the restored scenes do stick out for their poorer visual quality, the restoration was widely praised, with critics finally beginning to grasp the full emotional arc of Leone's vision. But the story doesn't end there. Notably, as mentioned, some scenes intended for the restoration still remain missing due to rights issues or the poor condition of surviving footage. Leone's full 269-minute cut has never been fully released in pristine quality. And while the 2012 restoration brought us closer than ever before, the ultimate version of the film still exists more in Leone's notes and dreams than on screen, and likely we will never see Leone's original vision for Once Upon a Time in America. Still though, today Once Upon a Time in America is recognized as a masterpiece. But the story of its US release reminds us that sometimes the biggest villains in cinema aren't in the films wearing fedoras and wielding pistols. They're in the boardrooms, counting their cash and destroying the dreams of authors. If you liked this video, consider subscribing and liking, and let me know what your thoughts on Once Upon a Time in America are in the comment section below. Have you seen the different cuts of Once Upon a Time in America? Which one did you see first, and how did it change your perception? Thanks for watching.